again. Today we are making dried radish with long beans and pork. So what we need for this dish is basically dried radish. You can buy this, I guess, at your local Asian grocery, and it's basically preserved dried radish. And then we also need some dried shrimp that I have rehydrated, and this is how they look like rehydrated. And we also need some tofu, and I just cut that into an 1.5 inch length with maybe about a quarter or half an inch thick, as well as ground pork, a couple pieces of garlic, long beans, and they're the green long beans. If you can't find green long beans, you can definitely use just regular green French beans to substitute the long bean. What we need to do first is we're gonna fry up those tofu pieces so they retain its shape when we start stir frying everything around. And we're just gonna cut, while we're waiting for the oil to heat up, we're just gonna cut our long beans. So about 2 inch in length. That's 2 inch in length. So now our oil is hot. I'm just gonna quickly fry up our tofu in that oil, just to give it a little bit of a crust. So I would spread them out and let them crisp up on one side and then toss them around again. Okay, now our tofu I've stirred it around, and now they're fried, and they will hold their texture better. And we're just going to transfer that to a small bowl. Now with this oil that we have in our pan, I want to start frying our ground pork. Just give that a good stir. Now, while that's frying up a bit, I want to season that with a little bit of black pepper and some salt. Start flavoring that up, and just make sure you fry that up real well, that it's all getting separated. Now we get our 4 cloves of garlic. Smash that, give it a rough chop, and toss it inside with our pork. Now to this we're going to add our dried rehydrated shrimp and our preserved radish. By the way, I'm using about a tablespoon of preserved radish. Give that a good mix. Make sure that pork gets a little bit cooked through. And for seasonings, we are adding a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of oyster sauce, and soy sauce. So I'm just frying this up really well first, trying to get the pork to brown a little bit. Okay. Right, and once you can smell all the fragrance coming out, add about a teaspoon of fish sauce and about a teaspoon of soy sauce as well. And mix that around. So with that, I want to add my green beans. Now I want to add a little bit of water to this so that those beans can steam up a little bit, and just cover them quick. Just cut it on an angle, nice long strands. By the time you've done your green onions, the dish will be ready. Alright, so let's see what's going on here now. Give that a good toss. There's still some liquid there, so I'm just cooking that out. And to this, I will add a little bit of oyster sauce. About a tablespoon of that. Adds a little bit of sweetness to our dish. And lastly, before we forget, our tofu. Tofu goes in there. I won't stir that right away. I'm still drying out our liquid. Plate. And a tad bit, a teaspoon of sesame oil. That's like the essential for stir frying, right? Oyster sauce, sesame oil, a little bit of soy sauce, a little bit of fish sauce, and the flavors develop really, really fast with those 4 key ingredients and basically all of Asian cooking, all of Chinese cooking. So now that our liquid's dried off, I'm just giving this another good toss. Make sure that our green beans are well cooked and that the tofu gets seasoned with our oyster sauce. Alright, and our green onions. There you go. Tofu with preserved dried radish and ground pork.